Good evening. This is the Wednesday, March 27th, Public Safety Meeting at 6 o'clock. I am Dan Bresnahan, the chair. To my right is Terry Murphy, Ward 2 Counselor. To our far right is David Bartley, Ward 3 Counselor. Chief Manny Febo is here as well, and Ernie Matthew from the Board of Health. Accept the motion to take item 1 off the table.
Make a move, we take item 1 off the table.
Item 1 is a order from, Ernie, why don't you come up, because this is the only one you're gonna have to work with, I think. Item 1 is filed by Councilor Leahy that the building commissioner, along with the Board of Health commissioner, come in front of the Public Safety Subcommittee to discuss the City Hall Annex. Dave, do you want to see this?
One copy?
Give him this too, Terry. Thanks for coming down, Ernie, I appreciate it. That's- So,
Okay, can you hear me now?
yes. So, we're in receipt of today, a document dated February 11th. It says 2015 on that document. Is that correct, or would it be 2019?
Now, this study that we had done by the state was done quite a while ago.
Okay,
And a copy should be in that packet.
it is.
The study was done, I believe in December, and the report was sent to us in January. January 2nd, 2015 by Susan Condon, who was the Associate Commissioner for DPH. Basically, the study is a set of recommendations. It's not a citation from the state. And the Board of Health's role was to, we had complaints about air quality. Our role was to arrange to have the state come in to conduct an air quality study and make recommendations, and we did that. And that, copy of that study is in your packet, with the recommendations. It was our job from the Board of Health, according to what the state officials instructed us to do, was to, forward this to the powers to be, DPW, mayor, and to let them follow up on it, to make the necessary work that needed to be done in the report to meet the recommendations. Now, I had a conversation with the DPW Superintendent Mike McManus yesterday in regards to this meeting. He said he was going to be here. This study, as you can see, at the time was forwarded to Jim Crass, who Bill Fuqua at the time instructed me to send it to him because he's building maintenance person. And as I said, I shared it with a copy with the mayor too. Jim Crass also was in that conversation I had with Mike McManus yesterday. Some items on that list were done, but not all of them. Some of them are costly. For example, one of the recommendations made was to eliminate the central air conditioning unit and install all window air conditioners in every office, because of the old ductwork that the air conditioner system has. Mm-hmm. That's the cost of the air conditioners for all of the office, plus finding windows that they can be installed, because not all windows, if you look at the annex, the windows open out, they don't open up from the bottom. So that was what Mike and I suggested at this point is that he and Jim Crass and myself sit down, look at the recommendations in the report from the state, see what's done, see what's not done, and see how arrangements can be made to get the ones that aren't that aren't met, to be met.
Damien Cody, thanks for coming. The building commissioner's here as well. I guess, I didn't speak to Jim Leahy, and I can't speak to what his intentions of this order was, but it appears we have a report from 2015 that talks about, a wide array of issues. I think one of the concerns was sometime in January of this year, there was a window left open, or perhaps, I don't know, and a pipe burst. And I was sent some pictures of, water gushing out the side entrance, frozen, going towards the courthouse entrance. And I guess so I know there's been someone that's moved out of that building. I guess without saying it's a terrible place to work, I mean, I've been in that building. When it rains, the stairs get slippery. I mean, do you have any insight on, I know you're not a mold and air quality expert, but assuming if water was bleeding out of a pipe for a weekend, it sounds like there could have been some structural damage, or at least, concerns about mold and mildew, developing since that time. Has the building been, sanctioned to be reoccupied? It sounds like the day that it happened, people were sent home or not to come to work on that following Monday so they could do a cleanup. But at the end of the day, what are we looking at? I mean, for that property as far as safety, air quality, and again, just your opinion. I'm not asking for an expert, but just your thoughts.
Sure. So that goes back, if it's 2015, it's longer ago than I thought. Time's flying by. But we had that window open, and nobody knows who did it. It happened, froze a pipe, burst. The building department shares a wall with that bathroom, so it got us on our back office, but I think it did more damage below, into the law offices and then further down from there. It's been resolved at this point, as far as I know, in terms of repairs. So, I think we were the last to get the repairs. The law department got, the flooring was redone, the walls that were damaged, and the carpeting. So we have a new carpet in our back office. They also leveled the floors a little bit because the wood got warped. So if there was any issues related to that directly, I think they're pretty much resolved. Mold and mildew, I think if anything, it relivened a lot of, the building's old. So the plaster walls and the floors, there are layers of flooring underneath, and by adding water to that and getting it saturated and brought in a lot of stuff that's already been there. It's not that it was new. But at that time, it was a problem. Now it's kind of resolved. All we have in our room now is the smell of a brand new carpet.
So from this report, though, and then again, this is the first time we're seeing it, is there anything that's been addressed? I know I don't want to put you on the spot, but is there anything that's been addressed, or is there anything that should be addressed? I know it's a 4-year-old document. I mean, should it be revisited and to determine whether or not, it just seems like there could be basically a good cleaning job, it seems almost in some of the document that they're talking to, and this is just, again, first time seeing it 10 minutes ago. There's a lot of talk about indoor air quality. Did we do anything with this report, or was it just something that was just kind of recommendations from the state, and it kind of just went on someone's desk? And, I don't mean that insultingly, but I know how these reports go. I mean, it's a money issue, and, there's, a lot of pictures of water damage, plaster on the 4th floor, structural damage.
I'm not sure, honestly. I'd never seen that report, so I've never gotten any report about any kind of analysis or insurance or anything. We only know what happened by sight, and then the contractors came and got permits to repair it. And I'm not really privy to any complaints that have happened either, as well, other than those in my own office were to me.
Okay.
Are you referring to the report that the state did?
Yeah, back in February of 2015, or
Yeah.
responded?
So we did some housekeeping, as recommended in the report. We also did a complete duct and vent cleaning back in 2017. There are some of the recommendations that we haven't implemented, like replacing the broken skylights in the two entrances, and that's a money issue.
Right. So,
Another one of the recommendations that hasn't been implemented was improving the HVAC system and the cooling. One of the things with air quality that benefits air quality is getting air flowing throughout the building. And right now there is an HVAC system, but it's old and clunky, inefficient, noisy.
is there, I didn't, again, read the report because I'm the first time I'm seeing it. Was there any mention to the fact that we're attached to the old police station that is, you know, infiltrated with water and snow every time it snows or rains? And is there any possibility that some of the, you know, some of that mold or whatever, I'm not, you know, I don't know what's growing in there because it's been closed down for years, but I know it's probably not, you know, a place that you would want to work. if
So
you-
are you referring to City Hall or City
No,
Hall
I'm just saying,
Annex?
like, I'm referring, well, this is about the City Hall Annex, but I mean, is there any connection to, you know, having that structure there to, you know?
No.
Okay.
No, I know that the old police station that we park on top of is right next to City Hall, but there is no connection between that building
In City Hall
and
Annex.
this building, or the annex, other than we walk across it to get inside.
Have we ever gotten a study from the conditions of that old police station, the structural integrity of that property?
No. I did walk through it last year, maybe a year and a half ago. And on the surface, on the top surface, the concrete looks like it's in horrible condition. It's spalled, you can see rebar, but underneath, the concrete appeared to be in very good condition, if not as constructed condition. But a legitimate structural inspection has not been done, nor has a hazardous material survey inside of that building. That hasn't been done either. It is one of the goals of the city to demolish that building and construct a parking lot. And at some point in the future, we hope to be able to do that.
We were talking a little bit ago about the water leak that happened on that weekend in January, next door to the annex. Was there anything besides just like the new carpet, floors being, fixed? Was there any sort of ambient air testing done after that or since that time?
No, there hasn't been anything done since the repairs or before the repairs as far as air testing.
How about the damage to the lot? Damien had alluded to that there might have been some damage to the law department. Anything that the public or anyone should be concerned about with respect to files, personal information, stuff like that?
So I can't speak to exactly which files were damaged. That was all in the law department. We knew that there were boxes on the floor that had water damage, but I'm not sure what the contents were of those boxes.
Anybody got any questions?
And just real quick, in terms of the HVAC, so right now, if I'm hearing everybody correctly, if you're working there, you're working with either a room that's awfully hot or a room that's awfully cold without necessarily being the right temperature at the right time. And we talked to window air conditioners, and that can't work there, correct?
Based on the way the windows are installed and constructed, they open up sideways outward. And Mike and I looked at them. The only windows that open by pulling them up are the windows of the side of the building facing Suffolk Street.
So in order to make the annex a somewhat modern office facility, we would really need to replace the HVAC. Would that be correct?
That would be correct.
And
With
any
that
idea how
new
much?
unit, no, I have no idea how much that would cost.
Okay. And did I hear you saying they're talking about tearing that down? Did you say that?
Never said that.
Oh, okay.
Police station. Former.
The police station outside. So where we park outside of City Hall, that police
Okay,
station.
that police station, okay,
Yes.
not the police station in the annex, okay. 'Cause I was thinking like, well, that makes the building come down, I think.
And as far as, you know, creature comfort inside the building, I don't think anybody could ever agree on a, you know, good temperature. You could have 10 people in the room, and 10 people would have a different opinion of what's too hot and too cold.
But that's true, but on the other hand, you certainly want a system that is gonna provide the best air quality. And temperature might vary a little bit, but,
True, but if we go back to the study that the Commonwealth did 4 years ago, the air quality was within, you know, industry standards.
and while I got, I'm just, so that, you're talking about tearing that police station down and building a parking deck, is that what you said?
Ideally, yes.
Ideally?
You would have more spaces.
Yeah, well, I'm with you.
There would be less maintenance of the, you know, the parking
Yeah,
deck
yeah.
as it is. It's a, I don't want to keep talking about it because it's,
Okay.
Yeah, just the hole's getting deeper.
yeah.
Jim, I didn't reach out to me, I don't know, so I'll take a motion to, take.
Make a motion that it's been complied
All
with?
right, second, all in favor?
Second.
Aye. So we're gonna accept item one, is, comply with Ernie, thanks for coming down. Damien, thanks for coming down. Item two is an order filed by Terry Murphy, order that the mayor provide the funding needed for the upgrade of the electrical systems at Wistariahurst. The current system prevents the museum from doing some business, but also poses a threat to personal safety and increases the threat of loss by fire.
If I can, Mr.
Yeah,
Chairman.
to the maker,
just-
sure.
Again, I had met, when I first got back on, I had met with a lot of department heads and,
Chat with you quick tomorrow, okay? We'll give you a quick buzz.
met with a lot of department heads going over things, and I did meet with Ms. Preisler from the Wistariahurst Museum, and her first comment was, we need to get new electrical wiring because it's holding us up, and we got safety concerns. And then I received a report from the city engineer, also telling me basically the same thing, that we've got 1903 wiring, I think it was, and that he had serious concerns about somebody getting injured, either electrocuted or arc flash, I think is what he called it. And arc flash is even more damaging than electrocution, which seemed pretty damaging. So, and I know they did apply for, I think, $250,000 or $280,000 in community development funds and did not get it. So with all of that said, I mean, we need to find a way. Two things happening. Number one, we're losing money because she can't allow people to come into the Wistariahurst because she can't do certain things. And number two, we're endangering both employees and potentially the public with a situation that needs to get rectified. So that's basically why I filed the order, and I'm hoping that we can find a way to get it resolved in a pretty quick manner.
So they both would like to be here to talk with you about that. And I would hope you could table this until Kate and Bob could be here. With regards to arc flash, it's a problem when somebody goes to work on a panel, when an electrician goes to a panel and opens it up. That's when there's the hazard for electricity arcing, and that's what is the arc flash. So when the panel's closed in its closet with the door closed and nobody's around it, there's no concern with arc flash. So regular, everyday people in the music room in Wistariahurst, there's no risk of electrocution or damage from arc flash. Just to clarify that concern. But it is an old, antiquated system. They do have, certain draws that they can't exceed in the electrical system, or else they'll blow a fuse. And these are old fuses. We're not even talking circuit breakers.
So it's on a fuse system.
Yeah, but an old fuse system. So They can talk to it more. Also, improving the electrical system, as you mentioned, would allow them to make more improvements in lighting and also in the HVAC.
Right.
The room isn't air conditioned, so she has to shut it down in the summer.
I mean, I know when I met with her, she indicated if that was done, she could probably increase her business by probably twofold. So she sent me a report, and I think it was about $30,000. So it could be $60,000, which could help offset the payment if we have to of the electrical. But just again, my concern with the engineer's comments was, and this is a quote, "Untrained employees should never open these panels, but due to overloaded and antiquated circuits in the music room in particular, sometimes they have to." That's my concern, that if something goes wrong and someone says, well, I gotta get this fixed, and the next thing you know, we do have an issue. So, I mean, I have no problem tabling it, but I really want to emphasize that we need to get this done sooner rather than later. And, you know, I know, people are going to say money's tight, and I know money's tight, but in this particular case, we're talking safety on one hand, and the second thing, we can actually talk about doing additional business that would pay off making the facility safe. So to me, we've got two home runs here that we better hit before something else happens. And I'll make a motion. We tabled it and asked both the director of Wisteria Hearst and the engineer to come in at the next meeting. But I also would like to get the mayor in here, because I think we need to get a commitment from the mayor. Obviously, it's going to start from the mayor, and I think he needs to be hearing the concerns that are out there in a public forum, so that
He was
he's fully
invited.
aware.
He was invited.
Okay.
So the motion on the floor is to table it. All in favor?
Aye.
Take a motion to take item 3 off the table.
So moved.
The mayor this is an order from Councilor Bartley. The mayor provide an update to City Council by its second meeting in February on findings, recommendations of the mayor's task force to combat panhandling. The following is the mayor's press release from August 2017. We had an initial meeting of a task force 2 weeks ago that included local and regional stakeholders to address the issue. It included the Board of Health, the DPW, the Police Chief, Councilor Lisi, staff from Tapestry Health, Providence Ministries, and the Director of Community Housing for the region. We want to address root causes, including homelessness and substance abuse, and work on a case-by-case basis to ensure the barriers faced by individuals are addressed by the appropriate partner in our community.
Make a motion. We take it off the table.
Sure. All in favor?
Aye.
Go ahead, Chief. Good to see you.
Good to see you, thank you.
Yeah, the order's the order, go ahead.
Okay, well, I haven't been part of the task force. I haven't been to any meetings. I believe Chief Nieswanger before me has, so I really don't have an update on that task force meetings.
Fair enough.
Um,
Councilor Bartley?
Right, so I'm going to say, well, Chief, I appreciate that. Have you had any communication with the mayor on this issue?
On homelessness, we've talked on panhandling and things in separate as a side issue in other meetings, but as far as the task force goes, I have not.
Oh, okay. And I appreciate you being here, Chief, because I figured this is new to you, and I asked your predecessor what was happening to the task force, and, he thought it was an attack.
I'd be happy to be part of any task force.
Yeah, no, he interpreted it as an attack on him. I just simply asked him, where are we with it, Chief? What do you mean? So I let it go after he went on to greener pastures, and then here we are about 2 years later, and panhandling all over the city of Holyoke. So why don't let me just broaden we'll say it was complied with at some point, because let's just say complied with, because the answer is nothing. So we know that's the answer. But Chief, and more broadly, because you've seen our orders come through here on a regular basis. Dan's filed them, Mike's filed them, about signage, that sort of thing. I know that you did have I don't want to call it, there was a group of police officers and possibly advocates reaching out to panhandlers. At least Chief Nieswanger said that, and I think, if I recall, and I don't like to rely on memory, but it was maybe 1 out of 10 accepted kind of services. Now, I'm paraphrasing, but I don't think I'm far off. So Chief, with that being said, what if anything is can or will be done to assist them? We're not talking about anything punitive at all. We want to do something to help them. And at the same time, I would rather not see them standing on intersections at Whiting Farms Road or at Cherry Street or at Dwight Street or at Maple Street or at Main Street, or, we could go on and on. So,
Okay, well, the panhandling issue is, it's a deep-rooted social issue, as we all know. As far as what we do on our end is we have a grant, continuing grant. I believe it was we just got it again for this year. It's a crisis intervention team, and where we partner with BHN, and we go out and we offer help and services, and we just kind of go with the BHN counselor. We kind of take a step back approach and wear plain clothes, because a lot of times the homeless are a little fearful of the uniform and things like that. But it's a good partnership. It's funded with grant money, or we wouldn't be able to do it, frankly. And we offer services. The data and the stats on how many take us up or take up BHN on those, I don't have that, but I would say if it's 1 in 10, that's a lot, or that's about right. It's just a tough situation.
well, Chief, that's really great information. Now, so, excuse me. The crisis intervention team, that was definitely the name of it. Has that restarted?
Yes.
Okay. And as you know, Jim and I filed an order, and I don't think we haven't passed it through ordinance yet, but we're going to ask for grant recipients from department heads. Actually, it might have passed, I'm not sure. HPD, that sort of thing. So we'll that ordinance is going to be incumbent upon your department to give us, 1 or 2 page report from the grant as to inputs and outcomes.
Sure.
At the end of it. So the BHN grant is being utilized now, and to your recollection, when does it? I just don't recall the grant coming through. So when does it kind of terminate, and when do you think you'll have a report?
I'm not sure exactly. Sergeant Hart, who's at training right now, he would have those dates. I can reach out to him and get the dates, but I am aware that very shortly we're going to, at the end of the grant cycles, come back and at least advise what the outcomes were. And each grant has its own measurables and all of that. Some of them are very, very, very hard to quantify, but we're going to do the best we can. And I think anytime we're out there reaching out and trying to deliver services other than enforcement activity is a positive thing. But I am aware.
Yeah, it sure is, Chief. I think we all appreciate that. Everybody appreciates when HPD is right there. I would just say to the committee, if you would, I think we heard the answer. And I assume that I don't have my glasses, Dan. I can't even read this thing without my glasses.
okay.
I referred it to the HPD and the mayor's office. I would hope I would have done that. In the order?
Refer to public safety and a copy to the mayor.
Copy of the mayor. Okay, so the mayor had it. The mayor's not here. There's nobody from the mayor's office. Councilor Lisi was on the task force. She's not here. No other member of the task force is here except for the police, the chief of police. So I'm just going to interpret that to say that nothing's been done. That this was a dog and pony show put together by the mayor. Got a headline. Got an article, and nothing was even initiated or attempted. That's the most pathetic part of all, Mr. Chairman. It's so pathetic that you go out and say something, and there's zero follow-up for a social crisis. So you potentially give people hope that maybe the executive of the city, in conjunction with the chief of police, former chief of police, and a sitting city councilor and department head, are actually doing something. The phoniness of it, Mr. Chairman, is palpable. I don't want to leave this in committee. I just want to move it along. If we have to refile it, we'll refile it. Now, some people say, oh, Bartley, you're so mean. You know, and you're such a wise guy. It's not that. If the mayor's saying it's his task force, I copied this and pasted this from a Mass Live article. This is his task force, Mr. Chairman. And to the committee. This is his task force. The mayor said, I'm going to do something about it 2 years ago. Nothing. We drive around the city. It's the same thing. I mean, who's helping them? And now I'm getting emails from counselors who, you know, and I agree with them. It's to have the Board of Health contact residents because panhandlers are storing their materials and their trash, you know, behind private residents. And so now we're going to have the Board of Health go knock on the door of the private resident. I mean, you know, so it's going to be the private residents' problem to clean up after the panhandlers? I don't know, Mr. Chair. It's a tough one. I don't have clearly not an answer. I really appreciate the chief being down here and BHN making the effort. I think that's the takeaway from this meeting, for sure. That and the fact that there's a phony committee. It's a phantom committee. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Councilor Murphy?
Yeah, just a couple of things. First, Chief, thank you for being here. I will say, you know, I've had some meetings with Veteran Services, and I know Jesus Pereira has been very active trying to talk to people that are on the streets that are declaring their veteran status. And since I've met with him a few times, I've started asking. And I want to make this clear that there are a lot of veterans out there that it is true when there's many of them when they're saying veteran, they are. And he's actually asked me, and I've done this, to call him if I see someone with a veteran sign. He's actually gone and met with them, and many of them are people trying to get services. So a lot of them are kind of caught in between. They can get something, but they can't get enough. So, I mean, I know he's trying to work with it, and I know your office is trying to work with it. So, I mean, there are legitimate concerns. Just like Councilor Bartley, two things upset me. I mean, number one, obviously, it's a human issue that requires us to work as a team. And, you know, I know the mayor was invited for the Wisteria-Hearst issue, and now he was invited for this issue, and especially in this issue related specifically to something that he started. And I would encourage Mr. Mayor, when you want to have good city council relationships, you need to show up when you're asked to show up. And I hope you're listening to this, and I'm saying that with a friendly voice. But we got to work together, and it can't be, I'm going to go ahead and do something on my own and then try to come back and get it through. So, lastly, are you in, I'm assuming you and Jesus obviously must have some connection, because I'm sure he brings in veterans in terms of the issue of panhandling.
Yeah, I'm familiar who he is, and we've exchanged emails and a couple phone conversations, and I've seen him there. But as far as him, when he reaches out, I'm not
privy
I
to that.
think he just does that directly.
Yeah, I mean, I've called him, and he's pretty much called me back in 20 minutes, and I'm talking to them, and yes, they are. Because my first thing was, I wanted to verify that they, in fact, were veterans. And I've asked a few, would you give me your name? And they look at me like, why do you want to know my name? But then they do give it to me, and then I call him, and then he comes, and he says, no, they're legit. So, you know, again, obviously, from a human standpoint, every person's important, but certainly veterans who have given and have probably in a situation because they've been willing to give for the country, we need to make sure we try to take care of them. So, and again, I think it's an important issue, and I do think a task force makes sense, but I think a task force needs to be meeting. So, and hopefully the mayor will get that message.
Can I just add one thing? Sure. I did see that the mayor did respond to, in all fairness, to Ryan Allen, that he could not make it tonight. Just that he did respond, though.
Okay.
Yeah, I just want to add, I know the mayor's busy. There's no question about that. So he cannot possibly make every meeting. But that doesn't, with all due respect, mean that he can't send somebody from the task force to say, that there is some result that was produced. But, Mr. Chairman, if they're not meeting, and the new chief, when did you start, chief?
I started July 20th.
Great. So the new chief has been in office since July, so we'll just call it, we'll just round it to 10 months. Hasn't had a meeting with the task force. That is shameful.
Okay. So the motion is that the orders comply with?
Yep.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to take item 4 off the table.
So moved.
All in favor, aye. Holyoke has to get, this is ordered by Counselor Bartley. This is just a review, because I have not gotten any correspondences, but Holyoke has to get serious about cleaning up its image. Recommend to the mayor that street sweepers clean every street at least once annually, and then as many other streets as possible twice annually. Refer to Mayor Suez, DPW Superintendent, and a copy to the public safety to track progress. So I guess we're just basically here to track progress.
Yeah, I just want to get an update if there's any possibility to, where are we with sweeping, Mike, that sort of thing.
So we do sweep every street at least once. Some streets get multiple sweepings per year. Last year, we started putting a schedule on DPW's website of when each street was going to be swept, and I plan on doing that again this year. So I'm waiting for an update from Suez, and then we'll post that onto the DPW website.
The sweepers, Mike, are, who owns them?
Suez. There was a city sweeper at the time that the contract was signed, but that sweeper has been decommissioned due to age.
And Suez utilizes how many in the city?
I know they have one. Suez also has the contract ops in Springfield, so sometimes they share resources between Holyoke and Springfield. Suez does the sweeping with their own equipment in, everything this side of 91 and some of the other streets where there's on-street parking because they have to post the night before. But out in the country, they do hire out for sweeping in those areas.
And what's the benefit to that? What's the benefit to the treatment plan? What's from your perspective from sweeping the streets?
So sweeping the streets removes sand and other debris that could enter into the storm drainage system. And since we have a combined sewer in most of the city, if that sand were to get from the catch basins into the storm drains, ultimately it would be the sewer. And then that sand would collect in the pipes and take up capacity in the sewer pipes, but also make its way down to the treatment plant where it could be harmful to equipment, to pumps, and other pipelines. Also in areas outside of the sanitary sewer shed out in the country, what it does is it prevents sedimentation of natural environments. So it would prevent the siltation of ponds and other habitat areas by sweeping the roads before it gets washed off.
That's great. Thanks, Mike, for that. I appreciate that. So I think this is complied with. At least we have some.
Just a real quick question. Is that part of the Suez contract?
It is.
And is there a specific line item to that, or no?
No, it's part of the base contract.
And they agree in that to be doing the street sweeping once a year?
Once a year, and some streets twice a year. So in the downtown area, within the collection system,
Okay, but that's all
it's
part of the
more often.
contract?
It's
Okay,
all
and-
part of the
okay.
contract, yeah.
Dan, just one more. What is it? What's the cost to? I don't know. Suez is how long they're with us. I know the contract goes for a few more years, but they're a big company, and things change in big companies. What's the cost to the city to procure one of these? And have we looked into it?
I haven't looked into it because Suez has that responsibility. But the piece of equipment, the sweeper itself, would probably be $100,000 ballpark. but then you also need the person to operate the equipment. And you need a place to dispose of the sweepings. So right now, Suez collects everything, and then they move that off-site somewhere else, and they pay for that disposal cost.
Well, I mean, we have, disposal costs too. I mean, we have a,
Right, I guess-
we dispose things all the time, so that, I guess I'm not, and we have staff, there'd be a staff issue for sure.
I mean, ultimately, we are paying for it, right? One way or
Ultimately, we are,
another,
yes,
we're
that's
paying
right.
for it. I don't know the exact annual cost of what it would be for the city to do that operation.
Is that something that we should maybe plan for?
I mean, as long as it's in the Suez contract, it's their responsibility, or whoever is operating the collection system and treatment plant. Following that trail, if we were to do it in-house, then we would need to, renegotiate the contract because they wouldn't be responsible for it. And it's part of the base cost. It's not like it's a line item cost that we see specifically for street sweeping every year.
So it's really a benefit to Suez as well, I would think. I mean, if it's helping their pumps and pipes and things of that sort.
It is. It's a benefit to them. It's a benefit to the city. There's also requirements from DEP for street sweeping, annual street sweeping, as part of the MS4, the municipal separated storm sewer system permit that the city has for operating a storm drainage system. That roads have to be swept, certain roads once a year and other roads twice a year.
All right, and just last thing, Mr. Chair, when will you post it to the website? So,
As soon as I get it. So hopefully by the end of next week.
thank you.
Mike, just a quick question. Is the contract with Suez, is that already up and it's just a year-by-year, the renewal? Or is it a year-by-year contract? Or is it, as Councilor Bartley alluded to, is it up in a few years? I was under the impression that it's actually a year-by-year contract that is just kind of, every year it just renews itself type of a thing.
So it's a 20-year contract. We're currently in contract year 13.
Okay, perfect. It's great, thank you.
And there is the option of an additional 5 years at the city's discretion.
Make a motion, the order's been complied with.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Take a motion to take item 5 off the table. Item 5 is an order counseled by Jim Leahy, Peter Tom, and myself, order that the police department have an officer stationed at Jim's Mobile on Northampton Street during the hours that buses are picking up and dropping off students to observe drivers ignoring the bus stopping to pick up and drop off students. Chief, I just through social media, you can see that there's already been a few stops and a few problems resolved. So it seems that the issue's been resolved.
Yeah, we went at it pretty heavily in the beginning, and now we do it sporadically to keep drivers on their toes, and pretty positive response from doing that, from the residents in the area.
Great. Any questions?
No, I'm all set.
Accept the motion that the item's been complied with.
So moved.
All right, all in favor? Aye.
Aye. Motion we take up item 6.
All right, so moved. Item 6 is an order filed by Councilor Bartley. Order the Hoyoke Police Department set up a traffic enforcement on Laurel Street near the Willow Street Y to monitor speeding and revving engines. Hoyoke Police Department set up speed and traffic enforcement as well as enforced the no parking ordinance in the South Street area near Elmwood Towers. Please send reports to this public safety for a hearing. Counselor or Chief?
Okay, well, I'll start off by throwing myself a little bit under the fire here. I missed that part where I was requested to send reports back to the public safety hearing, so that's my fault. take responsibility for that. But as far as the order itself, we send the area cars out. I think we hit that in the fall. Yeah, it came in September, so October, November, we monitored that with, as best we could with the area cars. I didn't generate a report or anything like that. On that note, I certainly would like to suggest in the future, if there's complaints from constituents and things like that, email is so much faster. And what I would suggest is if I get an email, rather than an order, what I would do is CC you the exact language and request that I send my captains and have them report directly back to both of us. It's just a better way to do it. It's faster and more transparent. That's my suggestion. But,
How long does it take for an order once it, you might not know the timeline, but I mean, because you're probably not paying attention to every city council meeting, but, so every other Tuesday, we have a full council meeting, somebody files an order, it's referred to the police department. I mean, do you actually see these orders before tonight, I mean, besides me sending you the agenda, knowing that you had to come in?
right, I see them, like I'll get a copy and I'll look at it and then I'll have a conversation or an email we'll exchange with whatever captain, if it's a traffic issue or narcotics issue. And we'll have a conversation. I'll ask them to make sure they take care of it. But do some of them get lost in transition?
Sure.
Yes. Is it a longer process, maybe a little archaic? Yeah, absolutely.
get it.
I love emails because emails are transparent. You send me an email, we can always look them up. Then like I said, I can CC any counselor and with my directions to any captain. They'll respond, and I'll, if it requires a date stamp, then I'll tell them by this date, can you do the best you can with enforcing or looking or monitoring the traffic or whatever the order is. And then we all see step by step. You see that what the captains are saying to me and where we're at. I would love to go to an email system and
I think we should just have city council meetings at home and just email each other. Councilor Bartley.
Yeah, I actually agree with the chief on that. Quite often, Mr. Chair, I will just send an email to a department head. I think Mike will testify to that without going it through a formal order, a formal filing order. But sometimes obviously I file orders too because it's what we do. But I would prefer just to do the email. So I think I'm going to take the chief's advice for this. And 7's pretty much the same thing as well. That was over at McIntosh Terrace. Is that one? I don't get out my glasses. I cannot see a damn thing. That's McIntosh Terrace. Okay. So I assume, Chief, you're probably going to say the same thing to that one.
7.
yes.
Okay. So and just through the to the chief. So Chief, what I would get from your predecessor, Chief Neiswanger, is I would get like a 1-page report sent out, and it would have, one in particular, I filed an order just for the do not block the box over on in front of the Calvary Cemetery, and it was a really great report because it showed. I think over a 2-day period, I think we issued like 38 citations. It was shocking, but not shocking because you know your way around. That happens on a daily basis. Similar to the no left-hand turn into Kmart Plaza. So Chief, here's an email without an email. I would love to have you set up a car there when there's an opportunity, Chief. Clearly this, maybe an hour or two once over the next couple of weeks. And you're going to see at least a couple cars every 5 minutes take the legal left turn into Kmart Plaza off of Whiting Farms Road. Once in a while, you'll see a PVTA bus taking the legal left turn off. Once in a while, you'll even see a black and white colored vehicle take the left-hand turn into the illegal left-hand turn
They
into
got
there.
their lights on, that's different.
It's a constant.
Okay.
No, that's part of it. But what I'm going to do is, why don't we just say that these were, complied with for 6 and 7, Mr. Chair, and then what I'll do is I will follow up with the chief, with just emailing these directly, and then we can just start afresh with these because they're ongoing things. These are just
Correct.
they're chronic. And I just think there's certain spots in the city where they're just chronic cut-throughs and violations. But on top of that, in these particular areas, they're just very conscientious residents that just, they know they're in a busy area, but yet their quality of life should be respected as well. And that's really where these are coming from. So I'm not dreaming these up. These are coming from directly calls that I get, fairly heated calls from constituents. And they're frustrated by, not you, they love the police department. Everybody admires the police department, women and men. And it's not that. It's just frustrated by the circumstance. They may have been having a bad day, and so they end up calling me. But it's happened multiple time after time, Chief. And so it probably builds up on them, and then they just kind of unload on me, and that's okay. But I do like to get back to them with something in writing, especially something official from the police department that says, hey, this is what we did to look at it on these dates. These are we issued. We looked at it and there were no tickets issued, or we looked at it and there were 72 tickets issued. We gave 10 warnings and 62 were, something along those lines, Chief, would be really.
Yeah, it's much quicker to get in place and get a response back through emails.
Yeah.
I would say. So let's try that, see how that goes, and I think you'll like the response.
Yeah, I'm positive I will, and I'll let constituents know. I don't like to, I don't like to, I know you probably don't care about giving out, you've given out your cards at my meetings before, and but I don't want people just peppering you with emails and all that, because you get so many things on your plate, it's ridiculous. But I encourage constituents to, really any part of the city, but Ward 3 to contact me and through an email or call, and I'll funnel them back out to you. So I think you can say 6 and 7 are both comply with, Mr. Chair.
If you could make a motion to.
I will, but I want to endorse what the chief said. I've had a couple of cases where I did file orders, but I also emailed them, and in both cases, I got a quick response, and then when I asked a further question, I got another quick response. So, I will tell you, in my younger days, when I was sitting here and the chief didn't have email, I didn't know what email was. So, but clearly, he does respond. He's quick, and I know he's forwarded to one of the captains from one place or another, and he's gotten me reports. So it helps in terms of doing what the order wanted to do and try to rectify a problem. His report has helped me in terms of accidents on Maple and Hampshire. Now I got to try to figure out how we can make the people on Hampshire Street drive a little better so they don't keep hitting the people on Maple Street. But I think it's a great answer, and I've got a few emails I'll be sending you because I just got a few calls today.
So, we need to make a motion that we suspend the rules and take up item
6 and
6 and
7
7 as a
as
package.
a package, and that they make a motion that they be complied with.
Okay, great. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Chief, I think what you're saying is you just don't want to come to the chambers and you just want to communicate with the counselors via email from a distance. Is that?
No, that's not correct. I just want to make sure we're working in the most efficient and effective ways possible. Now, I am aware of a couple of Councilor Bartley when he brought up the way the previous chief did it. And it's just so time-consuming to get a piece of paper.
Letterhead.
And then I have to go in and reduce that to an email, then send it out, and then comes back, and then he reviews everything and then reduces it into a full report. It's just so time-consuming, and it's the days are full and it's pretty busy. So if anything I can do to be more effective, more efficient, But I get what you're saying, and then everything should be here and talked about so everybody at home knows what's going on for sure.
Thank you.
I think reviewing the agenda, I think you might be free to go. Unless there's something, I know, Mike, you're on the hook for the other 27,000 orders. But I think most of it is, speeding issues, speed study, would the chief handle the speed study from the first, on number 8?
So for number 8, I know DPW did a speed study of Hillside Avenue 2 years ago.
So, you're all set, chief. Thanks very much for coming down, and I'll be in contact so we can get together soon. All right, great, thanks, chief. Sorry, Mike, I didn't mean to cut you off, but
Thank you, Chief.
I want to get you out of here just as fast, so. Because I know your plate is just as full as everybody's. To accept the motion to take item 8 off the table.
So moved.
All right. Item 8 is an order filed by Juan Anderson Burgos. The city council requests a speed study be conducted on Hillside Ave to address a speeding issue expressed by multiple constituents.
So we did a speed study 2 years ago when Councilor Graney was on city council. And at that time, I think the average speed was, 32, 33 miles per hour. So at that time, Hillside Avenue was a 30 mile per hour street, and a 32, 33 mile per hour speed limit for that 85th percentile wasn't cause for alarm, and people weren't speeding. But now that Holyoke has the citywide 25 mile per hour speed limit in, the dense residential and commercial areas, a speed limit, 85th percentile speed limit of 32 or 33 would warrant further traffic calming measures such as speed humps. It's a new order. It's been 2 years, so I recommend that DPW does another speed study so that it's fresh, so that we have current data. And we can come back in a little while, present our findings from that, and then start discussing traffic calming measures like speed humps or road diets or other things to try to reduce speeding.
Do you do, if I can,
Go, of course.
do you
Councilman
do
Murphy.
the analysis with just one of those things that says this is what the limit is and this is what you're going? One of those lights, or?
So ours is different. Ours is a little box that we hang on a telephone pole or something that just,
People don't actually see it.
people don't see it. So it records traffic counts and the speed of the vehicle.
That's the cable that goes across the street, correct? Or is it a box that's like a,
So ours is a box that uses radar,
okay.
but the cables do the exact same thing.
Mr. Chair?
Counselor Bartley?
Yeah, Mike, again, Mike, thanks for all your efforts. You appreciate it. Just two things, not related to Hillside per se. I thought the speed limit went there to 20 miles per hour. I thought I noticed that the other day on part of that street, but maybe I'm wrong. But would you just double check that? I could have sworn part of it was 20 as you get into the Ward 6 part of Hillside Ave. On South Street, I noticed there's those little strips going across South Street. Who put those?
If they're on South Street, I believe that is part of the Lawrence and Lynch School project. So it's a traffic study associated with the design of those.
On South Street?
Lawrence and Lynch schools.
Yeah.
So they're on.
DPW, we didn't put the strips out. We don't own the strips. And the only thing I can think of is that it's part of the traffic study associated with the middle school project. That doesn't mean someone else hasn't put them out.
Could you look into that, Mike? It's no rush. Just shoot me an email, and then I noticed that HPD has a box at the top of 391. Just so you hit the panhandler at the stoplight. You go past the panhandler, and right there's an HPD box. Why is that up there?
I don't know.
Okay, I'll just email the chief then. I guess that's the new system. So it's all good. Thank you.
So just
Go-
going back
Councilor
to
Murphy.
that South Street thing. So
Where are they on South Street?
There's one set kind of by the South Street Shopping Plaza on that section, and there's another set just further north, if you will, near further down the hill. I don't remember if it's as far as the whole donut or not. I just went over them, so I just noticed them today.
So then I guess those are farther from Lynch. They might be associated with the High and Maple Street intersection project.
Maybe?
I know, so we did authorize the engineer to collect newer traffic counts along the corridor. So that could be part of their study.
That makes more sense.
And, the High and Maple Street, those road improvements, they do end at Resnick.
Yeah, I know, and that's one of the frustrating things. I was hopeful it would kind of go a little bit, past the Fitzpatrick skating rink and try to tighten up that area, Mike. It's hazardous. We talked about it numerous times. I've been out there with Councilor Bresnahan on a couple of Friday nights looking at that myself, and with Councilor Bresnahan, and that left-hand turn as they cross the road from Maple Street going across South Street to the whole donor or whatever. I wish there was a dedicated left-hand turn only. It just seems like they take the left on the green, crossing against oncoming traffic that's going downhill, probably not obeying the speed limit. There have been crashes there. I've seen them myself. So I'm just saying that I was hopeful that by mass, but whatever. It's
And I will
That would
tell
have
you
to be
that
another
coming-
project.
And I will tell you that coming out of the rink, most people are getting onto 391 right there. So if the light's not green coming down Jerry Parento Drive, they'll take the exit out of the rink onto Maple Street, scoot over to that first left-hand lane, and then bang a left when it's actually red, and then just jump on 391 with the traffic coming down South Street.
Yeah, that's it exactly, Danny. So, and that's where we observed that a few times, looking out there. And so that's one of those.
Tricky area.
Yeah, it is a tricky area, especially with the down slope on South Street. So I wish there was just a way to make that a little safer, and then Mass DOT could have some input, but we'll see.
To the order, so should we
Table it.
table it, and then we come back in 6 months, and there'll be a study done?
Yeah.
Okay. Accept the motion tabled?
Well, if we just adopted it and we reported that the DPW is gonna do a new speed study, I would think Anderson Burgos would know then that he's gonna get another report.
Sure, so what we can do is.
Is that all right?
Sure, we can say it's complied with, refer to DPW, and then Juan can take it up with you.
Okay.
Okay, so moved.
Motion motion that's order's been complied with. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, so moved. Motion to take item 9 off the table.
So moved.
Juan Anderson Burgos, another order, study be done at the corner of Portland Street and Mackenzie Street to see if suggestions can be made to improve safety. Many vehicles drive through the stop sign. Many close accidents have been witnessed by residents in the area. I did speak to Juan. He sends his apologies. He's working until 7:30 tonight, but he didn't want me to, not bring these orders up. He wanted to at least get some feedback, so the floor is yours.
So with this one, we did install a larger stop sign on the, I think it's the Mackenzie Avenue approach. And there's a hedgerow kind of as you're coming down the hill, which we thought might block the view of the regular stop sign. So we put in a larger stop sign. And then we do intend to repaint the stop lines once the weather's good now, but once we get out with our paint crew, we'll make sure to repaint these stop lines. I'm the person who maintains the website, so. But we're all over the place. Painting, we do the crosswalks and.
Well, are you,
we're-
are you suggesting that they say where they're painting, or just that, citizens were gonna be starting painting April 1st because the snow's gone?
So something like that, Mr. Chair. I don't want to, just to give people a heads up that they're going to start painting, and And just similar to what he mentioned about street sweeping. Well, we're gonna sweep on, Martin, Elmwood, Longwood, West Glen Street on April 18th. Okay, well, we're gonna paint the crosswalks on Hitchcock Street on, I don't know, April 28th. I don't know, if that gets to be too much, I mean, I could see that, but just a thought.
I could try.
Just a quick question.
Sure, Councilor Murphy.
Mike, and this is something that I filed an order because of the pedestrian crosswalk here, and people told me they were having a hard time getting to the parking lot. And ever since I do that a lot. Every time I've done it, I kind of look to see if I can see the signs. And with vehicles being bigger and bigger, and the fact that you mentioned here that you're raising the stop sign, I'm wondering if that becomes a safety issue if we are keeping them to standard sizes, but the vehicles continue to get bigger, and drivers don't get to see the stop signs, or in this case, the pedestrian walk sign. Because if I'm at the top, coming down High Street at High and Dwight, and there's several large vehicles down by, you cannot see that. And I'm wondering, and I never had that problem before, but I'm assuming it's because of the size of vehicles, because usually it's a large SUV, or in some cases a pickup truck that's parked there. So is that ever been thought of, that we need to raise signs in order to make them more visible? I'm just thinking, I just talked about Maple and Hampshire Street and people going through the Hampshire Street stop sign. And I'm wondering if those are just not being seen, or people just totally ignorant of traffic lights or traffic signs.
So I haven't heard anything in, the industry considering raising the height of signs because of larger vehicles. But I do know what you're talking about, and if a utility van or a cargo van parks right next to a sign, it's hard to see.
Yeah. And again, vehicles are, like I said, they're becoming bigger and bigger, so it gets more complicated. Okay, thank you. Make a motion that's been complied with.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to take item 10 off the table.
So moved.
Item 10 is another order from Juan Anderson Burgos, a constituent that resides at 156 Nonotuck Street, has been dealing with flooding issues for many years. Mayor Sullivan was in office. A constituent requested a storm drain be placed at the dead end of the street to keep the water from flooding her property. I could, there's a bit of an opinion on that. So, Mike?
So back in August, we did make some repairs to the pavement to improve flooding, not improve flooding, to improve drainage in the area. And last month when we were here to talk about it, there was still snow on the street. Now there's no snow, so what we intend to do is monitor it when we get a really good rainstorm, and see, does the work that we did help the sheet flow away from the area. There still could be a small puddle at the end of Nonotuck Street, about the size of this desk here. Before it was a much larger area. So,
Is that right by the dingle?
no, it's the other end of Nonotuck, where the cemetery, where it comes out.
Oh, sure, yeah,
For
okay.
the cemetery. So the cemetery has their own surface drainage system, and we're having the flow go from Nonotuck into that. It goes into their system and back out into the city's storm drainage system. So we intend to monitor it, and if we see additional improvements that can be made, we'll make those. If worse comes to worse, what we would need to do is install a dry catch basin or a leaching catch basin in that area, so that it would take the rainwater and then infiltrate it into the ground.
So it's just impacting that one house? As far as you know?
Is that a residential house? Is it the house on the right or the left that has the, for,
I think if you're looking at the cemetery, I think it's the house on
Okay.
the left, because there's an apartment complex on the right.
right, I think that's for the elderly or.
Yeah, and
They got a grass roof, don't they? Didn't they put grass on the
Sure
roof?
about that, but my understanding is their drainage is fine.
All right, so I'd accept the motion that's complied with, and Mike,
Second.
Juan can personally take up with you in 3 months and see when, when the rain starts
Yeah.
coming, or if it's working or not.
Yep.
Okay.
Second.
Accept the motion to take item 11 off the
11.
table.
So moved.
All right, item 11 is from Juan Anderson Burgos. Order that the sidewalks on the even side of Beacon Street be repaired. The infamous sidewalk, Bastine.
So this area is eligible for CDBG funding. And, you know, DPW, we always put in for money with, through CDBG for sidewalks. I'm not sure where we stand with sidewalks and CDBG, either for this upcoming year or reprogramming from the current year we're in. So I know it's on our sidewalk list for CDBG funding when funding is available.
So if you don't get CDBG funds, because and I could be wrong, but I'm almost positive, I think you requested 500,000 for next fiscal year, and I don't think there was anything actually approved. I think there were some leftover monies that you were talking about for spring, but I could be wrong.
Right, and we request 500,000 every year. And I believe, my understanding is that we weren't going to get any for next year.
Next year, calendar year or fiscal year?
Federal fiscal year. And we were looking to see if some money from this, I think this current federal fiscal year could get reprogrammed for sidewalks. And I don't know if that's happened.
So if you don't get any money in CDBG, and let's say there's some money available from reprogramming, where does that leave us in terms of getting sidewalks done?
If we were to get money from the reprogramming, we would certainly look at this, but we'd also, there's plans to do some sidewalks on South Street, up by Northampton Street. And we would look to see how much budget do we have and what's the most that we can do with that budget. And outside of CDBG for sidewalks, there's Chapter 90 money. And there's, you know, safe routes to school if it's a specific school
Your
route.
school? How close does it have to be to the school?
And it has to be on like a dedicated, you know, walking school route. And then there's local funding too, if there's any city funds available.
Okay.
But sidewalks are expensive. They're more expensive than roads, and using Chapter 90 for sidewalks would certainly eat up our budget very quickly.
I just asked this out of curiosity. Is it something that, who makes the determination whether sidewalk A is more important than sidewalk B? If that's your gig, that's fine.
Yeah, I think it's been DPW
Okay.
deciding, you know, with the budget that we have, what can we do? And our preference would be to do a complete sidewalk and not have to stop mid-block with a sidewalk.
Right, and the CBG money is only for certain areas of the town.
Right.
Make a motion, it's been complied with.
Okay. Second, all in favor?
All right,
Motion to take item 12 off the table.
moved.
Item 12 is from Juan Anderson Burgos. Order that temporary speed humps be placed on Woods Avenue and that a speed study be done on the corner of Woods Avenue and Hillside Avenue. Residents living in that area have noticed an increase in traffic using excessive speed coming off and on from Woods Ave and Hillside Avenue.
So the first step would be to do the speed study on Woods Avenue to see if there is speeding. If there is speeding, then we would install the temporary speed humps do another concurrent speed study to see if the speed humps do anything to reduce the speeding.
When you put those temporary speed humps in, do you still have the box that's monitoring the speed, obviously, so you know whether or not the humps are having any impact?
Yeah.
Got it.
I'm assuming they do, though. Most of the time, I would
Most of
assume.
the time,
a hump
yes.
would-
Yeah, no, they do. They do a good job at reducing the speed limit. So what, we can put Woods Ave on the list for doing the
Sidewalks.
initial speed study. Sidewalks, yeah. Probably is due. The initial speed study and follow up with temporary speed humps if warranted.
So when it goes on the list, and I mean this, you know, respect in my heart, just so I can get back to him, like when Mike says he's gonna put it on the list, does that mean it's, you know, a month, 3 months, 6 months, a year?
No, I'd say within the next 3 weeks, we'd probably be able to get the speed recorder out there for a couple days. The temporary speed humps, that's something that we could put on the website. We could put I know there's several streets where we've promised putting the speed humps out, so we can put that list up and the dates on when the speed humps will actually be installed and in place.
And how long do the humps stay out there, you know, typically?
I think we leave them for a week or two.
How many temporary speed humps do you have?
We have 2 sets.
Do you think we need more?
Well, for Bemis, we would need more.
For what?
For the Bemis Road,
Oh, right.
for that one, I think we were looking at a total of 7 speed humps for the corridor. So in order to see if it's worthwhile, we would need 7 temporary speed humps.
So,
What's the speed hump cost?
Do you rem-
5,000?
Oh, yeah.
That's what, that's,
Is that what I told you?
yeah, well, I filed the, Mr. Chair,
Of course.
I filed the order to purchase up to 10, so that went over like a lead balloon, but at least we did glean some information that we had that was, you know, because 5,000, you know, we know what it costs, but this constantly comes up. And it's a pretty stiff deterrent. Most of those things are mean. So if we had a few more sets, I mean, I threw out the number 10, but I was hopefully maybe get half, and that way we could start spreading them out more. I mean, I guess I'd be a little disappointed to have them all on one road. As important as Bemis Heights is, I mean, we realize it's a significant area of the city with many valuable constituents there, and we know that to be true. But to have 7 sets on one street is that would be beyond the pale to my books, and especially when there's so many other needy areas in the city that have been neglected for a long time. But nevertheless, it would be nice to get it'd be a nice coup for the city. You know, sometimes I wonder, I just sort of chair to Mike, if Westover AFB or, I mean, a few years ago, Bill Fugate got that overhanging wood chipper. It was, you know, it kind of cleans, goes over the guardrails and cleans up. I mean, that was pretty cool, and he got that for a song, I think. So I'm wondering if federal government has some excess supply, whether it's at Westover, at Fort Devens, maybe.
For the temporary speed humps?
I don't know, just any kind of, I mean, I'm just kind of speaking extemporaneously now, but I was hopeful that maybe that we can look into see what kind of excess supply is available from the federal government. And like I said, Bill had some success with that truck. I don't think he was looking for it, but he found it, and or that trimmer, and you know, maybe there are speed humps out there that are.
So I've never seen speed humps on the public supply websites, but it is something that there's a couple people at DPW who monitor public supply websites. There's 4 that we generally go on looking for equipment. I haven't seen speed humps, but you never know. And certainly if something were to be offered that's local, we'd definitely jump on it.
Thanks.
Motion has been complied with?
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to take item 13 off the table.
Moved.
Item 13 is to change light to 5-minute delay at the intersection of Sunset and 202, or eliminate a left turn there. Drivers cutting through the neighborhood are rewarded by the light changing to green for them immediately. This is causing increased backups on 202 and Homestead, leading to more drivers cutting through the neighborhood.
So this item, 13, 14, and 15 are all related to the same general area. I think item,
Well, hang on a second. Should we put them all together as a package and we can zip through them all?
well, I guess item 13 and 15 are,
Can I make a motion to take
Item
13 and 15 together?
So moved.
so we had looked at this intersection and we're trying to find a way to decrease the amount of cut-through on Sunset and Ashley off of and onto Route 202 and Homestead. And the solution that we came up with was to dead-end both Sunset and Ashley roads at Route 202. Last year, we had put up some Jersey barriers, if you remember.
Sure.
And the neighborhood, from the public hearing, approved of that. So the next step would be to construct a permanent closure of the roads. So we had an estimated cost of $25,000 to do that. And when we do that, then this traffic signal at Sunset and 202, and also Doyle Drive on the other way, there wouldn't be any traffic coming from Sunset.
So the Sunset exit that by the reservoir, both of those going out to 202 will be dead-ended.
Correct,
And the feedback was positive from the neighborhood?
correct.
So residents would have to go back to,
Everybody would have to go
Homestead.
back to Homestead.
Has there been a problem with I mean, there wasn't barriers put up on Sunset, wasn't it just on Ashley?
We did it on both.
Okay. And there wasn't, people weren't crabbing about having to go around to get to Homestead? I mean, I know
was-
you get a couple, but the majority was basically saying,
The majority was an approval.
and the 25,000 for that, is that floating in somewhere around that we could get?
It's being requested as part of the city budget.
So this would be something for fiscal year 2020?
Yeah, as a capital improvement.
Right.
so is the concern mostly people using that to get to 202, or mostly people coming off of 202?
It's people coming from 202 to try to get to 91. So instead of waiting at the light at Westfield Road and Homestead Avenue, they would cut through the neighborhood. And that was causing problems with traffic in the neighborhood.
And so they won't be able to take a right turn on Sunset or Ashley then?
Correct.
Is that where the college, is to go to the new college road is?
That's
Right.
Doyle Road, right?
It's Doyle going into the college. It's Sunset going into the neighborhood.
How was the turnout for the public hearing?
It was full,
Yeah,
Was it?
yeah.
Great. So, we may get a few complaints about doing this, but if it in fact the money, it's again, it comes down to a money issue.
Correct.
Right. All right, so,
And if I'm not mistaken, it's also police and fire would still be able to.
Correct. It would be, we would install a sidewalk that would have a curb ramp so that emergency vehicles would still be able to mount up over the sidewalk and get into the neighborhood from that area.
And both chiefs have heard that, right?
They have, yeah.
Would oversized trucks be able to mount those sidewalks and get into the neighborhood?
You mean like a fire apparatus?
No, I
or-
mean like somebody in a private vehicle.
Yeah. So if you know it, you could do it, but it would look like a sidewalk with lawn on the backside.
Yeah, I've seen trucks come out of Queen Street, which, you know, leads directly into 202. You can only take a right, they go straight, and they go over the berm. Which, by the way, that would be a wonderful place to plant some of those big oversized flower pots. If you think of that, Mike, that would put it into that, you know, directly in front of Queen in the middle of that berm. Oh,
You're being thinking out of the box there.
well, those are actually used quite effectively next to Mel's Restaurant. If you know, the owner of Mel's came up to me, and I was just sitting there waiting for my takeout, and said, you know, people turn down that alleyway constantly, because there is a curb cut there. And so I mentioned to Mr. Smith, and he I guess through your office, you must have transported him up there, Mike. It wasn't him, but I mentioned it to him, and he found two of those big, huge, old, kind of homely-looking
They were the concrete.
flower pots, and you guys planted them right there. Problem solved.
Where are those?
I'm sorry, Danny?
Where are they?
Okay, next to Mel's Restaurant.
Yeah.
As you know, if you're facing the building on the left-hand side where you get the takeout, there is a curb cut right there.
Yeah.
And so people would turn the right, and they would go right down that. It's like an alleyway in between the parking lot and the takeout door. And, you know, that's not a roadway. So they would do that, and the owner came up to me and said, you know, can we do something about it? I said, I don't know, we can ask. And within a week, you guys had it up, so that was a real cool. I think I got a free meatball out of it, so I was stoked. I was really stoked. Good people at Mel's.
So bottom line is 13 and 15, we're gonna make them dead-end streets
Yes,
if the money's approved for next year's fiscal year.
right.
Got it.
And we're really not changing the light.
The light will be.
The light will
it
be a
is
moot
what it
point.
is. Yeah. You'll still need the light for Doyle Drive, for people exiting Doyle.
But they can take a left
They can take a left.
or right.
Or a right, yeah.
And does it automatically change for them too?
It does.
Right,
The
but
light
there
was put in for Doyle Drive.
Yeah.
It just happened to be where, I think it's Sunset, right?
right.
Where Sunset is. And since the light was put there, the commuters realized that now they can cut through the neighborhood.
Right, so they're coming out of Doyle, they're just been cutting through that neighborhood to get onto Homestead to avoid that whole interchange there and the Station 6, and they would just zip right through there.
Right. But also people coming from, you know, Apremont Highway or
Right.
Rock Valley, Southampton, Westfield, they're
Same
doing
thing.
the same thing.
And then if you're coming from the mall, you could take a left into that neighborhood and cut through that light section to get onto Apremont Highway as well.
Correct.
All right, so let me,
I mean, I think that's not a bad thought, Mike. I mean, you got to do something. That's a real bad intersection, and I can understand the people living there probably a little fed up of. Well, I mean, hopefully it'll work.
Okay, my motion, they've been complied with?
sure. All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Then item 14.
Item 14 is that flexible post be installed in the road to prevent cars from crossing the double lines before the left turn lane begins from 202 to Homestead Avenue.
So I believe this was an order for people parking on the right-hand side of 202 to access the reservoir. There was a tiny area where people could pull off and park, but there wasn't really enough room to get out and maneuver safely. So at one of the cheap solutions would be to install the plastic yellow poles to prevent people from parking there. But there was too much ledge, and we weren't able to get the poles installed. So we've since installed guardrail in this area, so no one can park there.
This is talking about people obviously crossing double lines to get into the left-hand turn lane onto Homestead Avenue from 202. Right, we're on 14, right?
Correct.
Am I reading that wrong? I mean, I know there's a left-hand turn lane, and I think she's saying that people are going across the double line on 202 prior to getting to the left-hand turn lane. I'm assuming that's what she's saying. Am I right, Mike?
Yeah, I guess I misread what the order is.
Yeah.
That's okay. We can table it.
Yeah, I'm not
All right.
sure what the intent is.
And again, don't want to speak for Councilor Bacon, but I'm assuming if we I'm assuming those flexible poles are like those rubberized things
Yeah.
that kind of give but don't leave onto the double lines prior to when you really can move over to the left-hand lane. But I think it's a single lane until you get to the doubles, right? Until you get to the left-hand turn lane, isn't it one lane coming
Well,
down?
because there's also the right turn lane on the Homestead,
Right.
that slip lane and the
Right.
island, and then you have the double lane. But the flexible poles, I wouldn't recommend installing them in the road because of snowplows.
Oh, okay.
Oh, wow, okay. Well, if you don't, yeah, I mean, the only time I see them is at that Mid-Cape Highway. Now, I haven't been down there in years, but the Mid-Cape Highway had those all the way up there. I'm sure those must have got wiped out every winter, every winter they had to have been. So, I mean, you could probably just say, complied with and,
All right.
And this is also from, September of 2017.
yeah,
So your recommendation is that it's not a good idea because it's, okay.
just wiped out by the plows. Yeah, you could see that. Not that they're not good drivers, they are, but I mean, just when the storms and all that, it's just, what are you gonna do? I mean,
So it would be complied with but not recommended.
Correct.
Make that motion, Mr. Chair. Are they easy to do, Mike? Are they like relatively easy to move in and out? Or no?
No, I think they would get kind of,
They actually get screwed into the road or whatever?
yeah.
Okay.
All right, so complied with?
Yep.
No polls for Linda.
Take up item 16.
Item 16 is from Juan Anderson Burgos. Request a pedestrian safety study be done at the intersection of Northampton Street and Dwight Street. Pedestrians have expressed concerns that vehicles making a right on red from Northampton Street onto Dwight Street are failing to be cautious of pedestrians crossing Northampton Street. So what do you think?
I would request more time to do this study.
I would agree, but I also, having done it a few times, and I don't know if this could work, but I always thought maybe if the walkway could be farther down, because I think what people are doing, and I could be wrong, but as you go there, you start to look to see if there's cars coming from East Hampton, coming down, so you're looking that way as you're turning, and it's right, the walkway's right there, as opposed to if the walkway were down a little bit, even if you were turning, you're still gonna be back and see that there, I mean, I don't know if that would work. But I do know, I've seen a few cases where it's pretty close, where people are looking to beat the drivers and not thinking about the pedestrians, so, and I'm sure that's what he's been hearing.
Yeah.
All right, so the motion on the table is to, the motion on the floor is to table the order?
Table.
All right, so moved. That's that one I'm gonna keep. All right, item 17, that the city engineer investigate the traffic patterns around Northampton Street and South Street in order to determine if any changes need to be made. Residents have been complaining about traffic building up in the left turn lane onto South Street from Northampton Street, southbound in particular.
And so the whole Northampton Street corridor from Kmart Plaza through Beach Street, there's times where it's super congested. I know there was a study done maybe 10 years ago by Pioneer Valley Planning Commission about it that talked to the congestion, and it's probably time to redo that study because there is during those peak times during the day, there's just too many cars trying to get through the corridor. So as far as this specific South Street, Northampton Street, I'd request, more time
Sure.
to look into it with Bob.
This order was actually filed by Counselor Lisi. I know it's not on there, but. Motion on the floor is to table it.
So moved.
In order 18.
Make a motion, we take it off the table.
Item 18 is an order filed by Anderson Burgos that a study be done at the intersection of West Franklin Street and Linden Street to see what can be done to improve safety. It's a dangerous intersection where multiple accidents have occurred on many occasions.
So this one, I'd also ask for more time.
Sure.
Bob and I did talk about this one a couple weeks ago, and it seems like that coming down Linden Street when you're at the stop on West Franklin Street has the through. There's no stop signs on West Franklin. I personally don't think there should be stop signs on West Franklin Street because it is the through street. It's where the majority of the traffic is, and they would have the right of way. But we were talking about ways of trying to improve the sight distance for people on Linden who want to take a left onto West Franklin. I know that's the way that I go when I want to get onto 391, because I'll come down Linden and then at that stop, I'll take a left. And there are times where you could get that large SUV or a box truck that's parked in the perfect location to block your view.
And just a suggestion, you probably already do it, but I know in talking to the chief on a few other cases, he was able to get me the accident reports and specifically what the perpetuator of the accident was trying to do,
Like the turning movements.
whether they were turning or going straight, and that kind of helped me make some decisions in terms of trying to come up with a remedy, so. I know, and he also, whether or not someone went to the hospital, I've gotten that. We ended up, in one case, it was like 85% of the accidents, they ended up having to take somebody to the hospital. So, clearly it was a major problem with someone going way too fast.
Right.
Not just, all right, I went through and I hit somebody at 20 miles an hour. I'm hitting somebody at 50, 60 miles an hour, so take care, David.
See you, Dave.
Thanks, Dave.
All right, so the motion on the floor is to table item 18. All in favor?
I motion we adjourn.
Yep. Second, all in favor? Aye.